The Samsung Galaxy Note 8 is finally here. So it's been unveiled by Samsung, it's now official, the wait is over. But now, before you go ahead and buy a Note 8, here are 10 interesting things that you need to know. So as always, grab some snacks, which could be popcorn, for example, and yeah, enjoy. Okay, so first off, let's talk about something that most of you are probably wondering. So how safe is the battery on the Note 8 this time? So the Note 7 had quite a few issues when it came to the battery, but this isn't really something that you need to worry about when it comes to the Note 8. So since the Note 7 incidents, Samsung has worked pretty hard on finding and fixing the issues, and they've managed to do that with the Samsung Galaxy S8. So with the Samsung Galaxy S8, we haven't had any issues when it comes to the battery. I haven't had any reported issues with the S8 or the Note 8, so yeah, the battery on the Note 8 should be fine. Moving on to number 2, the biggest new feature on the Samsung Galaxy Note 8 is actually the dual camera module. So this was something that surprisingly wasn't included on the Samsung Galaxy S8 and the S8 Plus, even though everyone was expecting a dual camera module on the S8 and the S8 Plus. So yeah, we finally have the first dual camera module in a Samsung flagship smartphone. So same as with the iPhone 7 Plus, we now get 2x optical zoom. So you can basically zoom in twice without losing any image quality, which is just awesome. However, what was really bad with that dual camera module on the iPhone 7 Plus were basically two main things. So the first one was the fact that it didn't have optical image stabilization, or OIS, on the telephoto lens. And the second one was the fact that the telephoto lens actually had a much smaller aperture than the wide angle one. So that one, the telephoto one was f2.8 aperture, and the other one was f1.8. So quite a big difference between, the two lenses, the two camera modules. So not only was it worse in low light than the main camera module, since it basically had an f2.8 aperture, but it was actually much worse than that, since it also lacked optical image stabilization. So when there wasn't enough light, the iPhone 7 Plus would actually switch, by the way, to the main lens and then apply 2x digital zoom. So in the end, it seems that the iPhone 7 Plus actually prefers low light photography over high resolution images, which makes sense. I mean, everyone would choose a better image, even if it's low res, than a higher resolution image that's way worse in low light, I'm guessing. The Samsung Galaxy Note 8 story is quite a bit different. So we now have an f1.7 aperture on the main camera module. So yeah, the same aperture size as on the Samsung Galaxy S8 or the S8 Plus, but then on the telephoto lens we have f2.4. So not only this, by the way, but we also have optical image stabilization, or OIS, on both modules, which means that they're both pretty good in low light, especially with that OIS. Now, the main camera module is still better in low light because of the larger f1.7 aperture, but still, it's a much lesser difference between the two modules than, for example, on the iPhone 7 Plus. So far, the camera looks like a pretty big improvement, especially when it comes to the dual camera module from something like an iPhone 7 Plus, or even the OnePlus 2 and even the LG G5 or the LG G6. Obviously, those phones actually use a much wider lens than a zoom lens for the second camera module. But still, what do you guys think about the dual camera module on the Note 8? Let me know in the comments. Next up, let's talk about the display on the Note 8. So we actually have a larger display with the Samsung Galaxy Note 8 than on the S8 and the S8 Plus. And the funny thing here is that the Note lineup has always tried to increase the display size over the regular Samsung Galaxy S lineup. And then the Samsung Galaxy S lineup has tried to increase their display size even more to stay relevant with the Note lineup. And then the Note lineup, you get the idea. So the Samsung Galaxy S8 came with a 5.8 inches display, up from 5.1, which is what we had on the S7. Then the S8 Plus came with a massive 6.2 inches display, up from 5.5, which is what we had on the S7 Edge. So as you can see, the Note 7 was left behind with just a 5.7 inch display. And now the Note 8 comes with an even larger 6.3 inches display, yeah, even larger than the S8 Plus. Now, obviously, this is not that big of a difference, but still, the Note 8 does come with a larger display than the S8 Plus. The biggest difference, however, is in the display's width. So the Note 8 is a tiny bit more squared off, rather than the more rounded display corners that we have on the Samsung Galaxy S8. Now, I kind of prefer the way the S8 looks, since it makes the bezels look a bit smaller. But let me know in the comments which design style, S8 Plus or Galaxy Note 8, which one of these do you guys prefer? Next up, number 4, we have the fingerprint reader. So yeah, on the Note 8, unfortunately, no fingerprint reader embedded into the display assembly. So we did have quite a few early prototype leaks, by the way, of the Note 8. I'm not sure if you've seen these. And they actually showed a dual camera module on the back and also no fingerprint reader on the back. So possibly embedded into the display assembly. But for some reason, most likely production issues, the fingerprint reader on the Note 8 is still on the back of the phone. Now there is a small improvement, by the way. So if you take a look at the back of the Note 8, the camera is no longer next to the fingerprint reader. Instead, we have the flash, we have the heart rate, and the oxygen level meter in the middle. So yeah, no more smudging up the camera by mistake. Then number 5, when it comes to the resolution of the display, this is actually the same resolution as on the S8 and the S8 Plus. So 2960 by 1440, which on the Note 8 would actually give us a PPI of 522. So yeah, we were all hoping for a 4K display, especially me. I just love the Samsung Galaxy, the Samsung Gear VR. Definitely the best mobile VR option by far. And a 4K display would just make it so much sharper, because now you can basically count the pixels. Now a 4K display might be included on the Galaxy S9, most likely, just not on the Note 8, unfortunately. Do you actually use mobile VR, and would you actually make use of that 4K display if you use something like a Gear VR? Let me know in the comments what you guys think about all this. Now when it comes to the CPU, we do have the same options as on the S8 and the S8 Plus. So we have two CPU options. The first one is the Exynos 8895. So this is an octa-core processor, and this would be for the international market and Asia, except for China, by the way. And then you also have the Snapdragon 835, and this would be for the US and China. So depending on which region you're located in, that's the model that you are going to get. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail when it comes to these processors, but basically all you need to know is that they're very similar in performance. Now, the Exynos overall is a better option since it's made by Samsung, so it's a Samsung designed chip. So get the Exynos if you can, otherwise the Snapdragon 835 is still a pretty good choice. So no improvements when it comes to the CPU, but we do have some improvements when it comes to the amount of RAM. So with the Samsung Galaxy S8, we got 4 GB of RAM. There was actually a 6 GB model as well, but that was more difficult to get. Now with the Note 8, we're actually getting 6 GB of RAM standard. Now, I know, we have seen phones which came with 8 GB of RAM. Crazy, such as the OnePlus 5 and phones from Xiaomi. Now, when it comes to stock Android, not even to mention iOS, this would be a complete overkill. But when it comes to TouchWiz, even 8 GB, to be honest, would be nice to have. Next up, we're also getting a few improvements when it comes to the S Pen. So we're getting a few more pressure points. But yeah, overall, it works very similar to how it did on the Samsung Galaxy Note 7. So yeah, when you take it out, you can actually write something on the display, even if the display is turned off, because this is an OLED display. Okay, so that's a pretty cool feature to have. But the question is, how many of you actually use an S Pen on a regular basis? I actually find it more of like a gimmick because of how well it's integrated with Samsung apps. And Samsung apps aren't that great. So most people actually use Google apps. Some people use Apple apps, obviously if you have Apple products. And if you want to take full advantage of this, of the S Pen, you'll have to use Samsung apps. So yeah, which apps do you use the most? Is it Google apps, Samsung apps, or Apple apps? I'm guessing if you're watching this video, it's most likely going to be Google apps for most of you. Next up, let's talk about the battery size and the actual battery life. So the Note 8, by the way, comes with a slightly smaller battery. So on the S8 Plus, we actually had a 3500 mAh battery. And now on the Note 8, we have a 3300 mAh battery. Now, I'm a bit unsure how much this affects the actual battery life. Because when it comes to the CPU is the same, but we do get more RAM, and then the screen on the Note 8 is a tiny bit larger. So in theory, the battery life should be worse. The Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus battery is actually pretty good. I can definitely get through a full day of intensive use. So yeah, the Note 8 should be a tiny bit worse. Hopefully that won't be the case. It all depends on how well Samsung optimizes TouchWiz. But yeah, hopefully it should be about the same as on the S8 Plus, maybe a tiny bit worse. And finally, how much is the Note 8 going to cost? Well, the Note 8 is indeed going to be more expensive than the Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus. So the Note 7, for example, that one actually started at £750 in the UK, and then the S8 Plus started at £780 in the UK. Now, the Note 8, even though we don't actually know all the prices for all the regions, it's going to be close to £900 in the UK, and that would be for the baseline model, by the way. So quite a significant price increase. So in the end, is it actually worth upgrading to the Note 8 if you're coming from something like a Samsung Galaxy S8 or an S8 Plus? So I would say no, definitely not. I mean, the only major features that you are getting with the Note 8 would be the S Pen and that dual camera, both of which I would say, I mean, most people can live easily without both of these. But if you're coming from a Note 5, an S7, an S7 Edge, or even a Note 7, I think it's a pretty good upgrade. I mean, you get all the features, all the new features from the S8 Plus, and you're also getting a slightly larger display, a dual camera module, and of course the S Pen if you really need it. But yeah, other than that, feel free to subscribe if you want to see more Samsung Galaxy Note 8 coverage as soon as I get my hands on it, which should be hopefully pretty soon. And also don't forget to enable notifications by simply tapping on that bell icon so that you're notified as soon as a new epic video comes out. Let me know in the comments if you guys are upgrading to the Samsung Galaxy Note 8, and if so, from which device. And also if you're epic enough to make it until the end of this video. But yeah, this was pretty much it. Feel free to give this video a like if you enjoyed it to let me know. And yeah, Zone of Tech signing out. So thank you for watching until the end. I'm Daniel, and yeah, I'll see you guys in my next one. Zone of Tech, I've already said this again. Signing out. Cheers.